Welcome back to another video here on Freewheel Photos. This is going to literally be an unscripted quick edit of how I am going to work with this particular image of a bird on a tree that fell down in my backyard. Now I'm using ON1 Photo Raw 2023.5. If that's something that you are interested in picking up or trying out for 30 days completely for free, check the description box down below. If you do want to pick it up, you can save 20% when you check out by using the coupon code FreeWheelPhotos20. That is an affiliate code. I get a small commission. You get an awesome piece of software. Now, let's jump into the edit. So the first thing that I typically like to do is mess around with my camera profiles. And this is going to give us a different color palette or a tonal value right off the bat. And I'm just going to quickly go through here. I kind of like what Vivid is doing, especially to the background, because I know that I can deal with the foreground separately. Now, I also like what Landscape is doing, so we're going to go with Landscape, ON1 Landscape. Now, most of the time, I don't spend too much effort on adjusting the photo here in the develop module. So I'm just going to get AI auto. I don't really like what that's doing, so I'm just going to pull this down until maybe it gets to a point where it's evenly exposed where I want it to be. So that way I can start doing the work that I want to actually do. So with that, I do want to bring up the vibrance just a little bit. I'm going to make the bird way more vibrant. That's kind of my thought process here. The next thing that I may want to do is explore a crop. If I hit the letter C, and then I'm going to change from the rule of thirds to the triangles. And what I want to do is try to figure out where I can move this particular crop, keeping the bird somewhere on one of these points of interest, and also simplifying the photo. This particular stick I may have to send into like Affinity Photo or something to get rid of. So we'll see about that. And I think I'll do something like this. Let's go ahead and hit apply. And so now this gives me my photo. And yes, I have cropped in quite a bit. So this is probably going to be one of those opportunities for me to use the Resize AI. So I'm going to go ahead and resize this. This was taken with my EOS R6. So I want to bring this photo back to 20 megapixels. This is not the Mark II, that's 24 megapixels. So I'm going to bring this back to 20 megapixels. All right, so now that Resize AI has popped up, I can go ahead and start working on the new dimensions of my photo. Now, I'm not going to make a full tutorial around Resize AI. If that's something you're interested in, then leave it in the comment section below. I don't use this feature all that often, but because ON1 is a photo editing suite, I'm going to use it today. So what I want to do is click on photo size, and then come down here. Instead of this being a 4 megapixel photo, I'm going to go ahead and just put it back to 20 and then hit enter. And this is going to blow up the image, make it larger. And now all I have to do is hit done down here in the bottom, and it's going to allow me to save this back on my computer. So it's already in the right file, which is random images. It's just the way that I named that particular file when I export it from the card. And let's go ahead and name this bird photo resize. And then we'll hit save. And this, know that this is going to save as a PSD, which is going to retain a lot of information. You can change this to either a TIFF, a Photoshop large document, which in its name, it's large. So don't recommend it if you don't have the space to store that. But then I have JPEG, PNG, or digital negative. In fact, I'm going to save this as a digital negative. That way I retain the raw data associated with it. And then I'm just going to hit save. But the PSD is what I've used in the past and continue to use whenever I do use this tool, and it always works just fine. But today I'm going to use the DNG because I have that available to me. Now, here we are back inside of the random folder or the folder with random photos, and I'm just waiting. It looks like it did load it in. I just got to go find that particular image. There it is. As you can see, this is a folder with a bunch of random photos. So I'm going to go ahead and hit edit on the DNG version. So this is now that rescaled version of the photo. I did lose the ability to go in and crop, because if I hit C, you can see that the dimensions of the 4x5, that's what's actually going to, that's the new dimensions of the photo, which is fine with me. I'm not overly concerned about that. So now that we have the photo kind of set in the way that we want to start editing, let's go ahead and start making some edits. I'm going to go ahead and hit effects, hit add filter, and we're going to start off with a curves adjustment. Now, I want to see how well the background and foreground picks up after you've used Resize AI. So if I hover over background, you can see I'm selecting everything except for that bird, which is great. And then this is only going to select the bird. And animal seems to be working just fine as well. So I have a few options here with the AI masking, which I don't showcase too much on the channel, but I definitely do use it. So we're going to go ahead and use the paint in and the background option, which is a new feature at 2023.5. I'm going to hit apply, and all I'm going to do is pull down on that background and really start to make some contrasty. Nope, didn't want to do that. One of the cool things about this new update is I can right click and hit remove control point. What I wanted to do is grab this bottom section here and just pull this over to the right a little bit, and you can see that that's making this photo a little bit more moody. Now, that's my style of photography, or at least my editing style. If you like something different, then you can absolutely go a different way with this. But for me personally, I like a little bit more contrasty, dramatic looking images. With that being said, I think it was getting a little too dark. I'm going to roll with that. So we'll rename this background edit. And now we're going to go ahead and jump into actually doing an adjustment on the bird. So we'll do a tone enhancer this time, and I'm going to select animal. So that way I'm selecting just the bird, hit apply. And now what I'll do is increase, got to invert that. I did a paint out instead of paint in. Exposure, we're going to update. We'll go ahead and open up shadows, maybe contrast a little bit, pull down on the black so that way the bird doesn't lose all of its contrast detail, and maybe even increase a little bit of the details on the bird. So turning this adjustment off and back on, we can see that it's really starting to work pretty good. And now what I want to do is, and we'll just call this bird tone. And I don't know why there's a capital O, but whatever, we'll roll with it. Color enhancer. Now, the color enhancer is a great way to really draw out the color in your overall image. So I'm going to do two passes of the color enhancer here. The first one is just me adding a little bit of vibrancy to the entire image, and maybe even some saturation. Yeah, I think this photo really suffered with the color degradation. I don't know if I said that word right, but whatever. So I like what we're doing here with the initial color enhancer. But what I really want to do is kind of manipulate these colors in the background. I think maybe I want to go for something that is less saturated. So I'm going to select adjust saturation down here at the bottom, select the picker tool, and I'm just going to click, and that's giving me oranges. So if I pull this saturation down just a little bit, that starts to desaturate that area. And what I want to do is grab the reds, push that more towards orange, so that way I'm getting more of that background included in that desaturation concept. So if I turn this off and turn it back on, you can see I'm actually adding a little bit of vibrancy, saturation, and really desaturating that background, which is what I want to do. So we'll call this color enhancer 1. And now we're going to add a second color enhancer. And this one is going to be what I want to call the bird pop. We'll go ahead and saturate this because I really want the bird to stand out. And it's okay if we overdo it. We can always tailor this back using that opacity slider. So I'm not overly concerned. And I know that the bird is mostly blue and I want it to be a little bit brighter, maybe saturate just a touch more. And I think that that's all that we need to do. But as you can see, it's making the rest of the image not look so good. So what I'm going to do is click on the mask. We're going to go with a paint in option, or I'm sorry, paint out. And we're going to paint it away from the background. So only the bird gets this adjustment. So if I click there, background, paint out, hit apply, now only the bird is getting this particular color treatment that we just added, and the bird's popping a little bit more. I think we can go a little bit further, and that's what we're going to do. So I'm going to hit add filter. We'll try a dynamic contrast, and you can see that that adds some real grit to the bird, and I'm kind of digging that. So we're going to go ahead and maybe pull down on the opacity, grab this mask again. I'm going to paint it away from the background one more time, so that way it's only going onto the bird. And then I think what I need to do is come back to our background edit and just pull up on this tone curve so it's not too dark in that background. Maybe even pull down on the opacity and just kind of blend that in, right? So here is the before and here is the after photo. Now, what I'm not really liking is the beak is not very orange in my opinion, or at least the color that I think it should be. So that's where I'm going to go to the local adjustments, and I'm going to zoom in on this particular photo. So hit Command plus a few times, and I am going to use the Encircling Tool here. So what I'm going to do is hit the letter N on my keyboard. That gives me my Encircling Tool, or I'm sorry, my Refine tool. And I'm going to go with hard edges, and I'm just going to paint all the way around the beak of the bird, just like so. And that's going to create its own mask for me. If I hit the letter O, you can see it created a mask. And this particular mask doesn't have to be 100% perfect, precise. And what I'm going to do is get rid of the exposure. I'm going to go with paint with color. I'm going to change this color to a color that was already in the image. So I'll click on my picker tool. That's not going to work for us. So let's turn off the picker tool. We'll just create a color like maybe it should be a lighter color, maybe something like this. I think this will work. So now what I need to do is work on blending this into the photo and making it make sense. So we'll see what our blend modes do for us. Screen is not going to work. Overlay, maybe not so much. Color seems to do the trick, because all I want to do is exchange the color values that are there for the color that I just added in. And yes, I could have done this using the replace color. I just wanted to do it this way because for me, it just feels a little bit more rewarding. Now, that may be too much for this particular image, so I'm just going to pull that down and maybe to about there. So if I hit Command 0, and you can see now, if I turn this off and turn it back on, it just makes that look a little bit better. Now, I could do a very similar thing with the coat of the bird or the blue feathers of the bird, but for that one, I'll go to Effects, and I'm going to hit Add Filter, and this time we'll do a Replace Color. I'm going to target this blue, and you see that it does a really good job at getting the right range there, but I want it to actually be blue. I just want it to be a little bit more of a blue that I would prefer it to be. Maybe something like that. And then if I just pull down on the opacity here. We'll figure out where that needs to blend to make the color of the bird pop a little bit better. Turning it off and on. I think that that's looking really, really good, but we have the same problem that we did the last time. So I'm going to click on my mask and we're going to do background and paint out, hit apply. So now that adjustment is only on the bird and the bird looks a lot more blue than what the bird was originally looking. So the last thing that I think I'll do here is I try to remove this little stick because to me it's an eyesore and it doesn't need to be there. So I'm going to hit retouch. And we are going to attempt a few different ways. So we'll use the magic eraser and see if we can magically erase this. Okay, let's see what ON1 can do. Well, there you go. Hey, I didn't know how that was going to work out, and it worked out just fine. So there you go. ON1 2023, ladies and gentlemen. So here we are with the original photo, not much going on other than the crop. And then after a few adjustments, we were able to really kind of draw out some things with the photo. Now, other things that we can do, you know, like I could sit here for hours and just make up stuff to do with a photo, but that's not as entertaining. So I'm just going to drop a sunshine filter. I can warm this up. And I think that this really does look good. And maybe just pull it down a little bit to help it set over the image a little bit more. And maybe we'll add in maybe a sun flare. Let's see. Yeah, a sun flare. That makes sense for that sunshine that we added into the image. It gives a little bit of direction for the overall image. Let's see, we probably can pull down on the amount just a touch here, and we can transform, move this sun flare around on the image to make it make a little bit more sense. So maybe we want that to be kind of just out of frame. So like so, and I think that this looks really, really good. Maybe increase the warmth there just a touch. So if I turn that off, turn it back on, it's like the light just graced over this bird perfectly. I don't know. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm going to do one more thing, and that is selecting the background and just making the background a little bit darker. I'm going to use a local adjustment, hit add adjustment, and I'm going to hit the letter N to grab that refine tool. I'm going to go a little bit larger, and all I'm going to do is come around the edges of this branch, and I'm actually going to go off the photo because I can do that here and it'll be just fine. And if I got to come back and re-edit some of that, then I will. So we'll go like that, and then I'm going to come down and really just trace over the edge of this branch all the way around the bird so I can edit the background separately. There's a few different ways that I could do this selection. I could use the line masking tool if I absolutely want it or need it to, but I want to use some of the new tools. So, you know, here we are using the new tool, and we'll click and drag to get this last little bit here. We'll close that off, and it should make a selection of the background, which I think it did. Let me hit the letter O. Yep. Made a pretty decent selection too. Needs to clean up around the edges here, so that's where I'm just going to grab my regular brush and hit paint in, and I'm just going to paint over these edges that ON1 was not able to, and I got the perfect brush on. Don't need that because I don't need to be perfect. I just need to get this a little bit darker. Maybe I'll turn on my perfect brush to get down in this little area, but it's okay if that part of the branch even gets some of the adjustment. It'll be all right. So now that I have my background selected, I guess I should probably get this area back here and this area down here. Okay, So now that I have all of that selected, all I have to do is blend this the way that I want to. And you can see that that's actually looking pretty decent. And like always, throwing a little bit of a feather in here is just going to help with making that blend that much better. Hopefully you found some value in hearing my thought process about how I go through making some decisions. Let me know your comments in the comment section down below. And if you want to pick up ON1 Photo Raw, go ahead and check out that link in the description box. Get a free trial for 30 full days. Throw your images in here. And if you want to pick it up, consider using FreeWheel Photos 20 at checkout to save 20%. And until the next time, I want you guys to stay inspired and keep creating. Peace.